The Big Three is a concept in comics that relates to the most popular characters, or the characters most in line with the identity of that comic book company. For DC, it's the Trinity: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. That hasn't and probably won't ever change. But Marvel is a bit trickier. Ever since the MCU became the media powerhouse it is, it wouldn't be strange to say that the Big Three are Iron Man, Captain America and Thor. Or Spider-Man, since he's the only one who kept his popularity from page to screen. But I think the characters that best encapsulate the identity of Marvel are Spider-Man, Wolverine, and the Incredible Hulk. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they had the best stories, but if you think of Marvel Comics, what comes to me is the death of Gwen Stacy, Kraven's Last Hunt, Weapon X, Old Man Logan, Planet Hulk, or the time the Hulk waged a war and broke the world. But we've seen so many of these characters from both Marvel and DC get their flowers and praise in film, except the Green Goliath. But why? Is it because he's too hard to adapt? We've seen aliens live among us and become the best of humanity. A boy lose his family and become a dark knight of hope. A man live and lose his family and friends, yet he still keeps fighting. And a young man deal with the responsibility of the world on his shoulders. I think the answer is simple. We don't understand the Hulk. At a baseline, yes, he gets angry, he turns green, Hulk smash the end. But if you delve deeper, there's scars of pain, abuse, and helplessness. And that makes sense with Marvel. DC to me have always felt like modern mythology retold. Marvel always felt a bit more personal. Stories of acceptance despite differences. Stories of love and loss. And stories of repressed trauma being kept in so long a person could just explode. Lashing out in anger, sadness, and betrayal. And that's what I think the Hulk is. A story of trauma. Bruce Banner was a child abused by his dad and watched his mother die at the hands of his father. He grew up latching onto work, not being able to commit to love for fear they'd hurt him too. And then the accident happens. The gamma bomb goes off, with him the blast radius. And what follows? His repressed anger and trauma come to the surface, and he lashes out for the first time in his life, labelled a monster. See, the Hulk to me isn't a monster. He's a boy angry at the world and himself for not having the power to save himself. It's why so many iterations show the Hulk hating Bruce.
Hulk, these feelings, the guilt, the self-loathing, they're normal for the survivors of child abuse. But if there's a rational part of you, you have to understand, there was nothing I could...
Nothing you could have done. But I could have stopped him. You kept me bottled up. Caged me.
Bruce couldn't save them, but Hulk can. So that's the first problem. Hulk and Banner are one, but they are not the same. Take Spider-Man Brand New Day. Bruce has had the Hulk repressed for what, a decade or so at this point? Just like the trauma of the character. And what happens? He gets out. What will happen? I couldn't say. Given the track record of how Hulk has been handled, I would say he's either going to be mind controlled again to fight Spider-Man, or maybe he'll end up fighting Man-Spider if Peter mutates that way. Either way, he'll get beaten, and I think that's wrong. The Incredible Hulk hasn't been incredible for so long, and it's down to that presentation of him. Maybe we had a good iteration of the character and we missed it. My first exposure to the Hulk was the Bill Bixby TV series. And although it was created by a man who didn't want it to feel like a comic book, the character surprisingly has a similar family dynamic with his father blaming him for his mother's death, and the birth of the Hulk being tied to a tragedy that befell David Banner. And Edward Norton takes on the scientist's curse with the uncontrollable force of the Hulk very similarly to Bill, although much more sheltered, knowing the power and danger of his Hulk. Where Bixby puts himself in harm's way to help others, Norton shelters and hides. Ruffalo initially is an expansion on that idea again. We first see him hiding in a remote place, also helping people where he can, keeping control of his demons. Even the subtle things where he almost looks afraid to bump off anyone for fear he could explode. The problem with the modern portrayal of the Hulk in the MCU is that he devolved into an almost diluted version of himself, almost a childlike interpretation of the character, the heavy hitter, the brute, when he should be the strongest there is. We could have and should have had a Hulk and Banner dynamic rooted in that character's trauma. He should initially feel like an uncontrollable, unpredictable force, a persona kept dormant for years, only woken up by the experiment gone wrong. Norton's does feel like that when he first appears, like a caged animal let out, lashing out, only wanting people too. But we did get that dynamic. Back in 2003, Ang Lee's Hulk, despite its flaws, is exactly the type of Hulk I feel would be a great blueprint for the character. A Hulk Banner dynamic rooted in the repressed trauma, suppressed under years of turning away for fear of what lies behind the locked doors of his mind. And when the Hulk gets out, he lashes out like a child in pain and anger, only calmed down by a pure heart of someone who accepts him with all his faults. And the villain being an abusive father, leeching and absorbing the Hulk's power through the pain and trauma he inflicted onto his son.
You think you can live with it? Take it!
Take it on!
And then when finally faced with it, he can't handle the power and the pain.
Take it back! It's not stopping! Take it back!
He can't handle it, the power, the trauma, the torment he inflicted onto his son. The Hulk and Bruce unite for a brief moment, letting out a roar, a release of their trauma. And who survives the battle? The victim, the abused boy with the most incredible power deep within. Maybe we could have gotten the perfect Incredible Hulk. The themes and character arc of Banner, the reclusive hermit scientist afraid to let the monster out that we saw with Ruffalo, the visceral power, unpredictability and yearning for control of Norton, and the heart and kindness of Bill Bixby, a man who just wants to cure his terrible curse. But isn't that the point of the Incredible Hulk? We all have inner demons, inner trauma within. We can't cure it, but we learn to live, scars and all. We choose to love despite knowing we're not perfect, that our monster is a part of us, and to be truly whole, just like Bruce Banner, we have to accept the pain, the trauma, the anger, and still choose to use the power of our scars in order to heal each other.
You found me.
You weren't that hard to find.
Yes, I was.